So, what actually separates someone who is truly wealthy from someone who struggles financially their entire life? Is it just having a ton of money? A fancy Ivy League education? Or maybe just pure blind luck? Well, honestly, it's literally none of those. The only real difference is how they think. Welcome to this explainer. Today we're breaking down a seriously powerful framework from someone who started out with absolutely zero and built a massive empire simply by changing his mental programming.
Okay, let's dive right into this. We're going to use this structured roadmap to look at the 5 mental shifts that built Alibaba. We'll start with the baseline, then move into choosing solutions over problems, thinking big and serving others, reframing failure, acting before you're ready, and finally, making the decision today.
All right, so Section 1, the baseline. Starting literally from zero, we're talking an utter lack of resources here. No money, no connections, and failing university entrance exams twice.
And before we even get into the mindset shifts, you really need to grasp just how bleak this starting point was for a young man in Hangzhou, China. Look at this number, 30. He applied for 30 different jobs and got rejected from every single one of them. He even applied to work at KFC when it first opened in his city. And out of all the applicants, he was the only one rejected. No way, right? Facing this massive wall of constant rejection, he had absolutely zero physical resources to his name. Which brings us to the first big mental shift, choosing solutions over problems. Because, obsessing over the fact that you have no money or connections, that just breeds more problems.
Everything changed for him with a few deliberate mental choices. Think about it like this. Your mind is like a garden, right? Whatever you plant grows. When you have no money, no connections, and nobody believes in you, man, it is so incredibly easy to obsess over those facts. But if you wake up every single day and plant problems in your mind, complaining that life is unfair, focusing on what you lack, well, problems are exactly what will sprout. But if you deliberately plant solutions, solutions grow.
And this brilliantly illustrates the whole concept. Poor thinking asks, why is this happening to me? Which, let's be real, just keeps you paralyzed and stuck in the past. Rich thinking, on the other hand, asks, how can I fix this? Changing one single word from why to how completely shifts your momentum forward. When Alibaba had zero funding in the early days, they didn't sit around crying, why are we poor? They asked, how can we solve this specific problem today? And that always gave them their very next step. Moving right along to shifts 2 and 3, thinking big and serving others. You see, setting a mental ceiling on your own potential costs you everything, but daring to think big, that costs absolutely nothing. Check out this number, 23. When our speaker pitched his idea for Alibaba, he had 24 people sitting in his apartment to hear it out. 23 of them flat out said no. They told him the internet wasn't for China, told him he should just stay a teacher, and insisted the whole thing would never work. Out of all those people, only one person said, let's try, and actually that person was him. The only yes he needed was his own. If you look at the contrast here, you can see exactly why he dared to build a company bigger than Amazon when everyone else was laughing. Poor thinking looks at a blank slate and says, well, nobody has done this before, so I can't. Rich thinking looks at the exact same situation and says, nobody has done this before, so I can be the first. The difference wasn't some innate, natural ability. The difference was simply who dared to raise the ceiling of their own mind. But here's the really surprising truth about wealth. The richest people, they don't actually think about money or profit first. They think about solving problems for millions of others. It's simple. Money follows value. If you help 10 people, yeah, you make a little bit of small money. But if you figure out how to help 10 million people, like, say, connecting millions of small Chinese businesses to the global market, your life changes completely. It's a total game changer. Ask yourself every morning, who can I help today? Now for the 4th shift, reframing failure. Because if we want to do big things, we have absolutely got to stop fearing failure and start respecting it as our greatest teacher. Take a look at this shocking number, 10. That is the exact amount of times Harvard University rejected our speaker. 10 times. I mean, most people would be entirely crushed by that. When people hear this story, they usually feel so sorry for him, but you know what? He never felt sorry for himself, not once.
Now, what's really interesting about this is how much it mirrors Thomas Edison's journey. When Edison tried 10,000 ways to make a light bulb that didn't work, he wasn't a failure, right? He was a guy who just learned 10,000 lessons. Fearing failure makes you internalize the setback. You say, I failed, so I am a failure. But respecting failure means you say, I failed, so now I know one more thing that doesn't work. Rejection is just redirection. A closed door is literally just an invitation to go find another one.
And that leads us to the fifth, and probably most personal shift. Act before you're ready. Because here's a wild secret. When Alibaba started, its founder had no tech skills, no business background, and no management experience whatsoever.
He wasn't ready, but he started anyway. I absolutely love this concept. The river does not wait for the perfect path. It moves, and the path opens. You are never going to feel perfectly ready, because honestly, readiness isn't a feeling. Readiness is a decision. The perfect moment? It's never going to arrive. But the perfect you is actively being built right now with every single imperfect step you take forward.
So the crucial point here is that you've got to stop waiting. Poor thinking sits around waiting for perfect conditions. Waiting for more money, more time, more confidence. But rich thinking creates those conditions while moving. You have to start moving with whatever you have in your hands today.
Which brings us to our final point, making the decision today. I really want to challenge you on this because you share the exact same brain structure and the exact same 24 hours in a day as the guy who started with nothing and built a global empire.
Let's just look at this and see how it all builds together. Here is your complete toolkit. Shift from asking why to how. Shift from thinking small to thinking possible. Shift from serving yourself to serving others. Shift from fearing failure to learning from it. And shift from waiting to acting right now. And notice something absolutely crucial here. Not a single one of these rich mindset shifts requires money, a fancy degree, or elite connections to pull off. They literally just require a decision.
So I'll leave you with this ultimate question. Which shift are you going to choose today? Seriously, don't wait until Monday. Don't wait until you finish your exams or until things settle down at work. Pick just one of these shifts right now, today, and put it into practice. Because once you finally change how you think, you have the absolute power to change your life, your family, and everything around you. Thanks for joining me for this explainer, and hey, I challenge you to start building that rich mindset today.